So welcome to Building for the Future of Android. I'm Dan.
And I'm Ash.
And we are going to talk about the future.
Oh.
But since we did a version of this talk at Google I/O last year, we are also going to talk about the past. And speaking of Google I/O, consider this sort of an addendum to our I/O content from this year for all the Android 15 stuff we didn't get to. And that was largely because the features weren't ready when we recorded the talks. And besides, Android 15 is going to be in our near future. And since there's a lot of stuff here, we're breaking it up into 3 sections, starting with user experience. Users prefer apps that draw edge to edge.
So edge-to-edge is the future. In Android 15, we will be enforcing edge-to-edge, meaning that the system bars, which are the status bar at the top and the navigation bar at the bottom, will no longer be opaque. Instead, they will be transparent. Unless you're in 3-button navigation, that will be translucent by default to ensure contrast for accessibility. So we're going to show a quick edge-to-edge demo. If I can hand this to you.
Of course.
All right.
And it's going to be, oh, wait, I've got to get the mouse here. There we go. All right.
OK, cool. Yeah, so let's see here. We are, right now, we can see our Socialite demo app on the right-hand side, and we see that it is not edge-to-edge because the system bars are opaque at the top and the bottom. Right now, we're targeting SDK 34, or in other words, Android 14. Edge-to-edge will be enforced as soon as we target Android 15. So if you are from the future and sitting in this room right now, you're probably going to change your target SDK value to 35. And then also, please come talk to me.
Yeah, if you're from the future, I want to know.
But for the rest of us, since we're working in a beta, we're going to set target SDK preview to vanilla ice cream. And then sync and run, and at this point, we'll see edge-to-edge enforced. Oh, hold on. Maybe I have to reinstall and restart the app. Let's try that again. OK, yay. So edge-to-edge is enforced. And it looks pretty good. So the status bar here is transparent, and the gesture navigation bar here is also transparent.
We've got more clouds.
Yeah, there's more clouds. So you might think that our work here is done, but it's not. We have some insets that we have to handle. And these are most easily seen in 3-button navigation. So I'm in the Settings app, and I'm going to switch over to 3-button navigation to test that out. And we can see that 3-button is translucent here. It's actually giving it like a white look. But we're going to switch over to this dog conversation and see that this custom input bar is now hiding underneath the 3 buttons. And this is because this composable is not handling insets. So let's go ahead and handle insets. So I believe this is found in our chat screen. And it's called input bar. Yeah. All right, this is the definition of input bars. Let's go to where it's called. So here we're simulating that this custom composable is not handling insets, and we're going to handle insets real quick.
Oh, no.
There's not enough space.
We have lost signal. Hold on. There we go. All right, now you can see what we're doing again.
All right, so we're going to type out this code and then explain it. OK, I'm handling insets. I'm going to run this, then explain the code. Input bar, this custom composable, which is this bar down here, is sitting within a scaffold. And if you're familiar with scaffold, then you know scaffold contains padding values, which we've called inner padding here. Padding values contains a lot of information about the insets, like the system bars at the top, at the bottom, and also anything else within the scaffold, like the top app bar and the bottom app bar. So we're saying take a copy of this inner padding and apply it to this input bar, but we don't need to account for the system bar at the top or the top app bar at the bottom, so we're going to set that to 0 dp. So that's how we've chosen to handle insets for this app. There's multiple ways to handle insets, but this is one approach. And we can see that it does indeed fix this issue. Now, this row is no longer hiding underneath these 3 buttons. We have a code lab for this. There's a lot more to this. If you want to know how to remove this translucent background, please see that code lab. And then also there's so much more information in that. So, you might be wondering, actually, one point. If we go back a screen, why we didn't have to handle insets here. This is because this is a Material 3 component, and so is the top app bar here. That's also a Material 3 component. And fortunately, Material 3 components handle insets for us, so we don't need to do that work. But custom composables, you'll need to handle insets.
There we go.
So
that's what that just said.
Yep, that's what that slide is talking about. Okay, we have a lot of other considerations for your app. First, after targeting Android 15, your app will also draw left to right, because edge to edge is not just about drawing top to bottom. It's also about drawing left to right and taking up that full screen. So you want to consider how elements in your app are working with things like the display cutout or the camera cutout here. And maybe you want to handle insets for these elements so they're not hiding underneath the camera cutout. And you'll also want to test things like caption bars.
So there are caption bars now.
Yeah, so caption bars are kind of like a system bar, but they are for floating freeform windows.
Future freeform.
So you'll want to ensure to use Window Insets system bars, so that includes the caption bar and also the status bar at the top. Don't handle insets using just Window Insets status bars. That's the trick there. So again, we have a code lab. It's in the Improve the User Experience of an Android App pathway, and this QR code will take you to that pathway.
Wait. All right.
Moving on to Predictive Back. So Predictive Back gives users confidence as they navigate through their app. An internal Google user study found that this back-to-home animation may prevent users from accidentally leaving your app. But this animation is hidden behind a developer option in Android 13 and 14.
In Android 15, say goodbye developer option.
Yeah, so users will finally see these animations in your app as long as your app supports Predictive Back. So they'll see this back-to-home animation, this cross-activity animation, and this cross-task animation, which we'll see in a second.
Animations are cool, and they're the future.
Yeah. Okay, so for your app to support Predictive Back, you'll need to migrate. If your app does not intercept back events, it is so easy. You'll just upgrade your activity dependency, and then you'll enable Predictive Back in the Android manifest. If your app does intercept back events, you're going to move away from the APIs that were deprecated back in Android 13, and you're going to use back handler or on back press callback instead to intercept back.
Yeah, it's really easy to accidentally disable system animations with these callbacks. So
yeah, so if you intercept back at your root activity or your main activity, you're going to disable that back to home animation. So avoid intercepting back there if you want the back to home animation. All right, so Predictive Back, there's a lot more support, especially within app. There's support for Fragment Manager and Navigation Component if you use one of these APIs. Just be sure that you're using Animator or Android X transitions. Don't use animation or framework transitions, because animation and framework transitions are not supported with those APIs that you see on the screen. We also have support for material components and for some material motion. Recently, we released a new blog called A Developer's Roadmap to Predictive Back Views. That should take you through the steps that you may want to take when you're adding predictive back animations to your views-based app. And then we have a ton of other resources too. And this year, really excitingly, Predictive Back is finally available with Compose. So there's support for Navigation Compose. You'll use one of these APIs. There's support for shared element transitions, like you can see on the screen here, and some material components too. So with that, we're going to show a Predictive Back demo. All right, we need gesture navigation to show Predictive Back, so I'm back in my Settings app. And I'm going to gesture navigation.
The phone suddenly is usable by me again.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm the person who swipes the edge of the screen when the 3 buttons are on.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so yeah, let's look at Socialite when it doesn't have Predictive Back enabled. I'm swiping back. You can tell I'm swiping back because you see that back arrow. No animation is playing until I release my finger, and then an animation plays. I gotta go back to Socialite. Okay. Same idea here if we're in a conversation screen and we swipe back, no animation plays. Predictive Back is all about playing an animation while you're swiping back. So we're going to add 2 Predictive Back animations to our app. For that, we're going to go to the Android manifest, and we're not intercepting back in this app. So it's pretty easy. We are just going to add Android enable on back invoked callback and set that equal to true. And then we should see the two animations. So now as I swipe back, I see a preview of where I'm going. Before I swipe back, this gives me an opportunity to cancel if I want to. And then for the second animation, if I go to a conversation screen and I swipe back, I can see an animation play out. This animation you see here is actually a custom animation that we have defined in our nav host, so I'm going to point that out real quick. I need to find the nav host, which is, I think, in main. Yeah, so here's this animation. We have a pop exit transition and a pop enter transition. This is saying that the first screen, the conversation screen, should scale out and fade out quickly, while the entering screen, which is this chat screen you see here, should be delayed a little bit and then scale in and fade in. So that's all I had to do to create this animation, was create these 2 enter and exit transitions, and I also upgraded a dependency earlier. So that animation, again, looks like that.
It's subtle, but I think it adds a lot to the navigation.
Yeah,
So.
agreed. Okay, so that was a quick demo, but again, we have a collab, and it has more information in it.
So your second chance to get this QR code.
Yes, QR code right here. I need to stop hitting my mic. With that, Dan's going to do a Compose demo.
All right.
Transitions.
Yeah, let's do this. All right. So we added shared element transitions, and let me actually switch my project here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So similar thing. Let me just for my own. Let's uninstall this for my end. Okay, start from a clean slate, I say. And let's make sure this still builds and runs.
That's a good idea.
Hey, I'm procedural. All right, so we used to do a bunch of things to make this work, but it's actually not very hard. So we first have to go over to main here, which is going to be not the things that are generated. And we're going to go to our nav host. And inside this nav host, I'm going to select somehow. Okay, I'll surround that with something just so I have a place in order to add something around there. And then I need to add a shared transition layout. So this is, there we go. And so that means that we're marking this as something that is going to have a shared transition in it. And now the fun part is we need to actually get the shared information all the way to all of the things that are actually using it. So over in contact row here, we have, let me look at my notes, just to make sure I get this right, because I messed this up like 3 times yesterday. So we have chat row. Now this is way at the base of where we're actually going. You can see this is the image here that we're actually going to want to use for our transition. So in chat row, I need to get parameters all the way from up there in the middle of nowhere. There are lots of ways to do this. Editing lots of code, as you know, you end up with a lot of functions that call functions in this, but I'm going to use something fun to do this because I don't do things normally. I'm going to use change signature. I don't know if anyone, how many often use this dialog. It is not my favorite dialog in Android Studio, but it does allow us to do something kind of fancy. We can create a shared transition. I actually have to type this thing out.
That's the hardest part.
I know. You see how badly I type in this time of the morning. All right, and then I need to add a shared transition as well as an animated content scope. Let me see what I'm doing.
So the shared transition scope is what allows us to use modifiers to tag the image as a shared element. And then the animated content scope allows Android to handle the visibility for us, so we don't need to manually handle visibility ourselves.
So with this magic button here, I can actually propagate this parameter. Let's see, I want to propagate it to there, to my chat list, to my home content, to home, to, I don't need to propagate it there. All right, so that should actually do the right thing mostly. It's going to complain because it's going to say, no, we're going to continue anyways. All right, so now at least I've got those properties. I need to do this in one other place because that's, again, it's a shared transition, and both these things happen deep down in the middle of everything. So the other one is going to be in the chat app bar, which I think is in chat screen. Let's see. No, that's, am I right? Do I remember my source code? Maybe.
I thought it was in chat screen.
It's in chat screen. Okay, there we go. And we have to do the same thing again. So sorry, I'm gonna run through the same exact thing. I apologize if this is not the fastest thing to do in the world, but you know, I can make the dialogue a little bigger. That'll make my life easier. All right, and hey, I typed it correctly that time. Practice. Now, you might be wondering, by the way, if you're doing a simple refactor, you don't have to use this dialog. As you know, you can, there's a very nice way of doing it just built into Studio, and you can actually just click on the side and it'll automatically refactor it. But because I'm using this fun method to refactor a whole bunch of things at once, I do actually have to use this dialog. All right, and I don't need to pass that into Bubble or preview. I'm gonna get some complaints, some errors I'm gonna have to clean up here. Continue. All right, so now it doesn't build. You can see I've got tons of build errors I need to fix, and that's because it doesn't do this with name parameters. Why not? You're like, well, I'm just watching him type. This is the least exciting thing. This is like watching paint dry. All right, let's see. What other errors do I have? Let's see, unresolved reference. Oh yeah. So I have a preview here, and so I do need to do something with that. I've actually put shared transition scope and animated content here in my preview, so I can just do, you know, this at shared transition scope. That should work, right? Oh, and this at animated content scope over here. Animated content scope. All right. Oh, did I? Oh, and this at animated content, because you know. Thanks for giving me that useful and not helpful completion. All right. So I think hopefully this will build. Let's see. We haven't done anything yet, by the way. We've just, you know, well, oh wait, I've still got unresolved references? Of course. What? Okay, hold on. Social.
That's a new thing. That's a new error.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one before. Oh, I've got that actually this I expect a little bit here. Okay, so this is the same thing. Equals shared transition scope and animated content scope.
So
oh, equals this at, sorry.
yeah. So again, we're passing the scopes down to the composables that are actually being marked as shared elements. And then next, we're going to mark those composables as shared elements.
I swear this is really easy. No. All right, now why? Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for correcting my code on the fly. It's nice to have a whole group of people. Let's try C. Oh, shared transition layout, thank you, rather than scope. See, I'm thinking about what it's doing. Thank you. Ah, no! See, I love creating humor. That's my goal here. All right, let's see. This, I think, should hopefully run. Refactoring a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, one last thing. Why is social theme not found? That I have not seen before. That is so weird. Oh, wait. No? That should be fine. That's really weird. Composable within the context of a composable function. Whoa.
Should we go to the end one?
I might just go to the end state on this one. I would like to, that is so weird though. I feel like there's something else going on here that I'm missing. Anyone else? All right, anyone else help me debug this? Thoughts? What?
Can you delete the underscore and then
Yes, I can, and that will do that.
and the arrow.
And the arrow? Well, the arrows are going to be required because that is going to be a lambda. So, because this is all. It does have a parameter. I mean, I could do that, but that doesn't actually really help. So no, I think that's correct. What I don't understand is why social theme isn't showing up.
Pretty strange.
All right, this did not happen in rehearsal, I swear. All right, I'm gonna do the bad thing and go to open project and open the end project, which is good. It means you'll have less of this file, recent projects, and we're gonna go to.
Oh, it looks like it's fixed, Dan. Wait.
Did it actually fix?
It fixed itself.
No, it's still
There.
It's so weird. I open in this window. All right. Well, that's like half the work there. I'll walk through the rest of the code. Hopefully this will all work. ID error occurred. All right. Let's see. This is actually built. If this doesn't build, then I'll know there's a real problem here. I know. Okay. Now, we were building here, and what we did do. So this does actually have our shared element transition in it. You can see we now have the image, and I'll walk through a little bit of how the rest of that works. But the coolest part about this is also supporting predictive back. So not only do I get this fun transition, but if I swipe back, I can actually go through the timeline of any animation. You see it's actually doing all the animations at once, both the transition and that. So that's what's really fun. That's the ooh moment, by the way. Thank you. I'm glad one person got it. However, I do want to walk through really quickly what actually I was unable to do in the code. Like, why do we have all these endpoints for these talks? Because this stuff happens. All right, so let's go back to our contact row here, which I think is where we have it, if I remember correctly. So what we actually do in our actual row scope here is we add a shared element to this modifier. And this modifier, as you can see, is just tracking that shared element scope all the way from the beginning. The only thing that's interesting about this is it doesn't need a unique key. So we're actually using the chat message ID for the key. I have used all sorts of things with these keys, but this is just very useful, and it's going to be correct. And then, so that's one side of it, and the other side of it, once again, is over in chat screen. And if I would have gotten that in my previous demo, because the hardest part about this whole demo is actually just getting the things to propagate all the way up. We have this exact same shared element code over here. So once you actually get these parameters where they need to go, it's actually very, very simple to finish off the shared element transition. All right, let's go back to slides. Here we go. All right, and do you have the clicker? Or do I have the clicker? No.
No idea where the clicker went.
All right, good. It's not that one. That's the other clicker. Oh, that is the clicker. All right.
Okay.
What a wonderful wall of widgets.
These wonderful widgets whisk users directly to where they need to go, giving them access to the content and the features they care about most right from their home screens. So here are 4 tips. First, we have new design guidance out there to help you design widgets faster. Thank you. You can scan that QR code. Second, use Jetpack Glance to develop widgets. 1.1 will be stable soon. Third, use generated previews to create dynamic instead of static widget previews.
So if I were looking to add a contact widget to my home screen, the preview would show Rebecca, who I do know, instead of Evelyn, who I do not know.
Yeah. And fourth, create dynamic widgets. So let's see how the Socialite widget updates when the app state changes. This is just going to be a code walkthrough. Oops, wrong one. Okay. So again, we're in our Socialite app. And we're going to add, I'm going to add this to the home screen. We're going to add a widget. This is our Socialite widget. And I'm going to select my favorite contact. I'm a dog person, so dog. This widget looks pretty good. Essentially what we're going to do is walk through the code that updates this no messages text here to new messages when our app gets a new message. So we're going to explore how the widget is wired up and then how the app updates the widget. So for that, I'm going to start in the Android manifest and find our app widget receiver element. So our receiver invokes our Socialite app widget. And then our Socialite app widget extends from Glance app widget. Glance app widget is the thing that handles remote views for us under the hood. So if you've worked with remote views in the past, I'm sorry, they're painful. They're written with XML and kind of tricky. Fortunately, with Glance, we don't have to touch remote views. Glance app widget does that for us. We get to write with Kotlin and Compose. We're overriding provide glance here, which is an excellent spot to load our repository. So this widget model repository at a really high level allows us to create, update, and delete our widget model. Our widget model has information in it like the display name, the photo, and then importantly, remember this unread messages Boolean. Okay, so we're going to come back to the repository, the widget model repository in a bit. But right now, let's look back at our Socialite app widget. Okay, we've explored the repository. We're passing the repository into our content composable. And then our content composable is loading the model from the repository. And then we're going to display our favorite contact composable, which is the dog you see up here. Okay, so this composable looks pretty familiar. You have like column and image. You might think that these are regular composables, but they are not. They are actually imports from AndroidX.glance. So when you're working with Glance, your imports are going to be different composables. So that's one thing to note. And the other thing to note, which is pretty cool, not related to updating the widget state, but this Glance theme colors widget background. You can use that for a dynamic color. So if you want your widget background to match the background of other widgets on the screen, then use this. Okay, but back to updating the state. We're going to go all the way to the bottom. This text composable is where we're reading our model unread messages, and right now displaying no messages because our Boolean is set to false. Otherwise, we'll display new message. So where are we updating this Boolean from? We're going to go back to the widget repository. And then at the bottom here, this is the function we're calling, update unread messages for contact. This is where we're updating the model with this unread messages Boolean. So this method is called in 2 places in our app. So within our app, our chat repository, our apps repository, we're calling this method to update the widget when we get a new message, which is at this line here. And then we'll call it again when we've read that message. So that's how the widget is wired up, like a really high overview and a way of how you can make your widgets a little bit more interactive. There's a lot more to widgets, so please see this build beautiful Android widgets with Jetpack Glance talk. And then the final Colab in the pathway, access that here, has a ton more information, and it shows you how to build this socialite widget from nothing to this dynamic widget that we just saw. I should probably demo what that, I forgot to do that. Okay, so yeah, just to show you what that widget does. If we go to this dog and we demo this real quick, in about 5 seconds, dog is gonna send us a message back, and then it says, new message. And then when we open it and we read the message, it goes back and it says, no messages. All right, yeah, thank you.
All right, so people think that the future contains more of this AI stuff, and Terrence and Thomas discussed yesterday how to add generative AI to your Android app. If you missed that talk or don't have a DeLorean for time travel, you can get most of the content online through 2IO talks. So see this talk to learn about generative AI use cases in general and how to integrate Gemini Pro into your Android application, or this talk to learn about Gemini Nano. And there's also a contest. The best Android app wins $50,000 and a custom electric DeLorean. The best Android app wins $50,000 and the best overall app wins a custom electric DeLorean, so you can ride to the future in style. So let's add some of that AI stuff into our app, and we'll show off how Glance can be used to create interactive widgets at the same time. Because it took me so long to do the other demo, I'm just going to go to the end state here. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what this does. Recent projects. Of course, I don't have this one here. I'm going to have to open it. All right. But you know, terminate. All right, so let's just get this project started. And what? All right, hold on. Why? That's really supposed to be the end project, I swear. Oh, I know why this isn't working. Hold on, I can fix this. This is easy. Da, 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 da. This is why. My text is really small because the Mac doesn't allow you to have a mirrored monitor that actually supports large text size.
I think we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, we got time. All right. So this is one of those things where I have to have my API key. So my API key was not there. So I need to go to CP generative AI start /app /data.properties to generative AI end. Because you don't check your API keys into source control. All right. See, let's try that again. Oh, that's so much better. All right. All right, so let me walk through a little bit of what we did here. Once again, this is, I'm going to go through the, what we actually did in terms of generative AI. So this is using the, there we go, thank you. And even built, look at that. All right, so this is using the generative AI, which is part of the Android ML SDK. And you can see here that to create a model, all we do is call generative model. We give it the model name, which in this case is Gemini 1.5 Flash latest. That API key, which I had to pull over, as well as some config. We also can do things like safety config as well. In this case, I'm using temperature because I want it of 2.0 because I want it to be very random, and I'm using max output tokens of 256 because I want it to do small things. And then we have our actual method that uses this. So what I'm going to do is basically make dad jokes. So I'm going to write a short message that says hello using the name of the animal with related puns, alliteration, and emoji. It really doesn't do much alliteration in this particular one, but hey. And that's basically it. So this is our data layer. I have added this over to make things easy to me and for me in our repository. So we have our chat repository then has a method here that calls somewhere send AI hello. So this is what calls that thing. So again, I have to get the name of it, so it's easier to put in this repository. It may not be the best structural thing for the app, but then it calls get hello animal response here with that name, and then it calls the send message function. So that's what should all happen in the world of things. But what happens in the world of, to make this happen in the world of Glance? And this is actually where I think Glance is really fun, because it makes this a lot easier. So inside of here, what I have to do is go to, first of all, let me go to our UI. It's probably easier to start from there. So in our UI, I have created a button that says say hi, and I've on-click add on send AI message. Okay, that on send AI message is a parameter passed in here. It is an action. To get this action, what I do is I create an action run callback. So this is all, what's actually happening in this is we are getting a broadcast message is coming to Glance, and on Glance's behalf, on our behalf, this whole mechanism is running. So this fairly simple callback is happening. And the great thing is it's happening all with coroutines. So everything's asynchronous, and then we can go here. And we have this, this is our actual action callback. I'm using this, I could have just used a Lambda, but because I like coroutines and on action actually gives me a coroutine context and everything, it's actually easier to use this. I have some Hilt stuff to grab my chat repository, but most everything else is sitting here, which is really just get send AI hello. All right, so let's actually run this. And we have our widget here, and so now we have a button you see that says say hi. And press that a couple of times. Maybe I get lucky. We have network. All right, you know.
I don't think it's connected to the Wi-Fi.
Oh, it's not connected to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's not going to work very well, huh?
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey. Let's see if this works now. Okay. There we go. And now when we're all done with this, you see we have a dad joke generator. So we have woof there. I hope you're having a possum day. And because we're actually doing this based upon whatever animal we have here, we can go to parrot and do the same thing. Click say hi. You know, there we go. And the parrot will respond back to us, and you'll see that we'll also see the new message thing come up when the parrot responds back. So there we are. There we have a bunch of puns, and let's get through the rest of this talk because we are running out of time. All right, so let's move on to a bunch of updates you should know as you plan for the future. And I thought, did I leave this down? Yeah, I did. All right, Android 15 improves the multitasking experience on large screen devices by supporting saved app pairs and taskbar pinning. And it adds platform support for app archiving, which allows users to install and remove your app while retaining their app data.
It adds PDF rendering improvements that are supported back to 12 through mainline, so you can now add more advanced PDF functionality to your app with the Jetpack library plan to further simplify your integration further. HDR headroom control allows you to tune screens with SDR and HDR content, so the SDR content doesn't look washed out.
Android 15 supports loudness metadata and AAC content so that your users can listen in a variety of environments without having to constantly adjust the volume. We've added support for dynamic spatial audio over LE audio for improved latency and performance.
On the camera side, low light boost enhances real-time preview and video quality. And Android 15 adds support to query which camera features can be used together so that you can select the best set for your use case.
We keep evolving the way Android apps draw the screens with Canvas support for clipping shaders as well as 4x4 matrices for transformations and translations in 3 dimensions.
With text, Android 15 improves readability by giving you fine-grained control over line breaks and hyphenation. And other features that make your text more elegant and give your designers more options, such as variable font support for Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. So ensure to test your layouts when targeting 15.
And to ensure correct font rendering and text-to-speech, Android 15 supports setting the locale for your default resources. It also improves NFC experiences, supporting one-tap, makes it easier to build font families, and support channel-based notification vibration effects. And that was a lot, but let's go to technical quality.
When the device runs out of power, no one's apps get used. Screen off energy drain is a big problem, particularly when the device is using cellular data.
Which is why Work Manager gives you constraints so you can defer background work until the device is charging on lower power Wi-Fi networks, or at least until the battery is no longer low. So last year I created this super simple flowchart to help understand how to do background work, and this year some of my colleagues made it more straightforward.
Yeah.
And this is what we said last year about running in the background, and Android 14 added short foreground services, and Android 15 adds a new media processing service type for performing time-consuming media operations.
It's part of our work to evolve foreground services, including target SDK gated timeouts for media processing and data sync services, and boot completed restrictions.
Now, foreground services provide awesome power with the requisite awesome responsibility, so do things like remove unnecessary weight locks and use lifecycle-aware components for asynchronous work.
You can use Perfetto to record power traces on supported devices, and this allows you to examine your use of wake locks, the modem, foreground services, making sure that the device can suspend properly when your task is done.
So back in Android 14, your app gets frozen shortly after it's moved to a cache state, and in Android 15, we're clarifying the behavior of forced stopped apps. They now actually require user interaction to run again. And to help you understand what your app is doing and reduce unnecessary initialization, we added the Application Start Info API. You can actually add timestamps to instrument your startup and a listener for when startup is complete.
Android 15 also gives you more detail on the storage it's using, including your installed APK size, DEX, artifacts, library size, and more.
We improved SQLite with read-only transactions, row count, and ID retrieval without requerying, and support for raw statements. Yeah, we're at time.
We're at time.
So let me give you like 30 seconds in all of this, okay? So a bunch of stuff we don't need to go over here, but I do want to actually end with, first of all, this is important, 16 KB memory page sizes are coming, and you're going to need to make sure any native components have been rebuilt for it. We're going to be using Angle for running OpenGL on top of Vulkan, so you should test this. And then we added private space. Hopefully you've had a chance to play with that. Credential Manager has a whole bunch of new stuff in it, including autofill and restoring credentials. We've got this recording API in mobile, so you can transition from Google Fit. And Health Connect now supports background and a few other things. Okay, Android 15 bumps the minimum target SDK version to 24. And this is actually important. It adds an opt-in flag that blocks apps that don't match the top UID on the stack from launching activities. And there's a bunch of other stuff there. I'm not even going to go through this other than the punchline, which is that the Google Play SDK console is now going to be open to all SDK owners. So even if you have an open source SDK, you should register it here. You'll get a whole bunch of interesting data about how it's used, including crash reports and other things, as long as it's distributed from a single verifiable source. So if you have an open source SDK and you want to get it involved, you should do that. And I'm not going to go over these predictions other than you can read these on the screen. And thank you. We're just gonna, for everything, we're going to continue help building libraries and tools so you can navigate for the future. And thank you for joining us.